97.7 Dundalk FM. Town Talk.
I always think that song there is like a little short story set to music. That is Eleanor McAvoy and the wonderful South Ann Street. And we're going to be talking all things stories now and reading them because MS Ireland, or Multiple Sclerosis Ireland, have recently launched their 37th MS Readathon, which takes place from November the 1st to December the 15th. And joining me on the line now to tell us all about it is Orla Marron, who's a brand ambassador for MS Ireland. Good morning to you, Orla.
Good morning, Rissa. Thank you so much for having me on.
You are very, very welcome. Are you looking forward to the Readathon?
I can't wait this year. It's the first time taking part in it, so really looking forward to it.
Okay, and are you a reader normally?
I used to be. So obviously I'm living with MS. I was diagnosed 7 years ago. So before I was diagnosed, I loved reading. But then when I was diagnosed, my reading turned into more research in MS, and that's the only real thing that I was researching and reading. And so I sort of lost my love for reading. So this year, to encourage myself and to get back into the love of reading and to get my kids into reading, we said we're doing the Readathon this year.
Okay, we'll talk about the Readathon in a minute, but you mentioned there that you are, for the last 7 years, you're living with MS. And do you mind if I ask you just to take us back 7 years ago and you know, what it was that, first of all, made you go to seek some kind of a diagnosis, and then how you felt after you eventually did receive it?
Okay, yeah. I sort of probably was putting it on the long finger. So life was busy. I was two young kids, aged 2 and 5 back then. We were moving home. I was working full time. And my symptoms, I kept putting it down to just life being busy, a lot going on. So I was coming home in the evenings and I couldn't move my arms or legs. Then at work and that, I would have this pain going down the right-hand side of my face through my eye that I wanted to rip the skin off my face. And I just remember going into work one day and I was like, no, this actually can't be normal. And I actually had a feeling that I had MS, and I went into my doctor and I said, I actually think I have MS because my mum actually has MS. So I've grown up with it and I've seen the symptoms. And my doctor's just like, no, Orla, you know, MS isn't hereditary, it's not. And I said, no, I really do think it is. So anyway, I got an MRI scan and came back and he goes, oh no, you actually do. And like there's a lot of damage done to your brain and spinal cord at that stage. So I had put it off, which was the wrong thing to do. I think in the back of my head I knew I had it, but I didn't want to go to the doctors to find out, which is the wrong thing to do. I wish I had to go sooner than I did.
Okay, and you knew you had it because, as you said, you'd grown up with it. But an awful lot of people would have, like you were trying to do, sort of, you know, put those symptoms down to just everyday things. Like, you know, we can all be quite tired when we come home from work, and sometimes we get, you know, headaches or pains that we can't exactly explain. So you're 30 years of age. You have a diagnosis of MS. Which form? Because I know there are different forms, aren't there?
Yes, there is. So I was diagnosed with relapse and remitted MS, and at the moment my mum is in secondary progressive, so she has it now over 30 years. So there's different forms of MS. Now the relapse and remitted means that you might go through a relapse for a few weeks and then it should settle down, and hopefully then you'd be fine for another few months or years. But that's what the treatment you go on for, is to try to slow the disease down, to stop you having these relapses. So that's the important bit, is trying to, and probably the most important bit, but the hardest bit as well at the beginning, is trying to find a treatment that suits and works for you, because everybody's so different. Your body's going to react differently to different treatments. It took my third treatment. So it was on year 4 of being diagnosed. I went on to my third different style of treatment, and it was third time lucky that it started to slow the disease down. My first 2 treatments, every time I went for an MRI every 6 months, there was more progression of the disease and more symptoms. So I had to be flushed out of that treatment then to start a new treatment. And with every treatment there's side effects. and that. So on top of after being diagnosed, and yes, I grew up with it, but still it was very hard to come to terms that this is my new life and what is life going to be going ahead for me. But so it was very hard at the beginning, and the first 5 years, I have to say, it was very, very tough.
And I'd nearly suggest, Orla, because you grew up with it, there was probably an element of thinking, as the doctor said, this is not hereditary. Oh, well, look, lightning doesn't strike twice. And
yeah.
So you thought, no, that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, sure, obviously you're hoping that it's not, obviously, but I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing that I grew up with it, because I've seen the good sides and bad sides of MS. So when you were diagnosed first, you're there, oh my God, that initial worry going, what is going to happen? Because I grew up with it, and it would have always been a fundraising events throughout the years for my mum, for our local MS society, I would have seen the bad cases of it. So those images and that already will automatically go into your head. Mm-hmm. But now there's so many different treatments and help available compared to when my mum was diagnosed back in the early 1990s. I think she said there was only 3 treatments available when she was diagnosed. Now there's over 20 treatments available for people. Like, it is just amazing what they can do. And I'm very lucky in the last 2 years, my MRIs are stable, so it means my treatment is working. I found one that's working for me and has started to slow the disease progression down. So that's what I'm saying. The earlier you get, if you have any inkling, go to a doctor and have a chat. Hopefully it's nothing, but what if it is something? The earlier you start your treatment, the quicker you'll get on a treatment to start slowing the progression down.
Is there a difficulty in diagnosing, getting a definitive diagnosis of MS, Orla?
No, again, I was very lucky on my journey. I had a very supportive GP, went to the doctors, they sent me for an MRI. The MRI came back. They seen the demyelination on the MRI scans. They couldn't give me my official diagnosis, but it was obvious from the MRI what it was. And they referred me on to a neurologist. Now, I had an appointment with that neurologist within 4 months of the referral letter going off. So you go up, you meet with your neurologist, and you discuss a treatment plan of what treatment you're going to start on first to see how it goes. Then you're on that treatment for 6 months to see, and then you get an MRI in 6 months to see if the medication has started to slow the disease down. If it doesn't, then they flush you out of that. You get sort of steroids in between to keep you going, and then you start a new treatment. You meet with your neurologist again, you pick another treatment. Like I said, but some people their first treatment might work for them. I know people who went in their first treatment and they've been on it 10, 15 years. I unfortunately, it took the third time for a treatment to work for me because everybody's so different. So you just don't know until you try it.
How has it altered your life?
Oh, massively. I was always such a busy person. I'm still a busy person, but I have to rest. And I listen to my body more, which probably was the biggest learning curve for me is to listen to my body. So my brain, that was the hardest thing. My brain and my body want to do different things and can be hard to deal with. Some days that you feel, oh, I'm invincible, I can do this. And then your body teaches you, oh no, actually you can't. Today you need to rest. So that is the biggest hurdle for me. Now the kids, it was hard at the beginning when the kids were younger because when they were 2 and 5 and Mommy wasn't fit to play and I was going through a lot, obviously, like I said, in the first 5 years, and they didn't understand why Mommy wasn't fit to play. And I remember it was snowing really heavy, lots of snow, and my husband and kids were outside playing. I was going through, I was after going through a bad time with a treatment, and I remember looking out the window and the kids were like, Mommy's not coming out to play. Mommy's really boring. She's not coming out to play with us in the snow. I physically just wasn't fit to do it. That was hard because they didn't understand. I wouldn't have told them when they were that young, so they wouldn't understand what MS is. Now that they're older, they're 9 and 11 now, I've spoke to them about MS and they understand that Mommy might have to rest some days, and they are happy enough with that because they know then when I have my rest and I'm good, we're back to normal, and those bad days, they make me appreciate the good days.
Okay, well, I'm sure they are going to be getting involved, like you, in the Readathon this year. 37 years it's on the go.
Years, yeah. It's MS Ireland's biggest fundraiser, so they're 37 years doing it. And without it, they won't be able to provide the vital supports and services and to 10,000 people in Ireland living with MS. And like I say to anybody, it might be just reading a book for you, but to me and everybody else living with MS, it's our support network to help us along the MS journey. It's what gets us through every day, and I've used a lot of the services that MS Ireland provide, and I really wouldn't be in such a good way I am today without all those services.
And that's very important, and that's why something like this is very important as well, because as you said, you know, to us it's just reading a book and it's raising a few funds. To you it means a hell of a lot more, but because of this and because of this initiative, I know that in addition to reading, you're going to be out and about and you're going to be explaining to people, and particularly in classrooms, etc., what's going on here. And you know, we know kids love to get involved in something like this, but it's also going to introduce them and to give them an awareness of MS, and that's why something like this is so vital.
Exactly, and kids are amazing of wanting to help out. Like, they mightn't understand what MS is, they might have heard of it, or maybe they might know somebody with it, but it creates a conversation with them, and that, I'm doing this readathon for people with MS. What is MS? And you'll give them a wee gist of what it is. You're not obviously going to go into details with them, but you'll give them a general idea of it. But kids automatically are like, oh no, I want to help. And they're brilliant. Kids will just jump in and go, yes, let's help them out. I can do this. And yeah, I'll read loads of books and I'll raise money. So they're just brilliant.
They really are. Okay, so that's exactly what you want people to do. Let's explain how it works. People sign up to take part in the readathon. Do you set yourself a target of how many books you're going to read, or?
You can. So you set a target of how much you want to raise, and you can set yourself a personal target online of what books, and then every time you read a book, you can put the book up you read, and you can put up a wee your review of it if you want. Again, that's optional if you want to do it that way. Some people, rather than manual sponsorship forms, you can do it manually if you want it. Year they have the option of doing it online or manually, which is brilliant, especially with kids who like going around with their sponsorship cards and that. But for the high-tech kids, there's QR codes this year, so they'll have their own poster with their own QR code. For people who don't have cash, they can go and just scan here and you can donate to me because I'm going to read loads of books. So there's loads of stuff online. But if you're a person who doesn't want to pick up a book and read, and maybe this year it doesn't suit you to take part in the readathon, you can still donate, which is the most important part as well of it. Is you can go on to MS Readathon, you can donate, you can go see my page, search Orla Marron, and you can donate directly, sponsor me or sponsor anybody. I'm sure your local schools, or you might know somebody, and give them a sponsorship if you're not in a position to take part in it this year.
Okay, and Orla, can I ask you, and maybe you've just answered it there, you mentioned the local schools. We were talking earlier about the fact that not everybody is online and you know, knows how to make a contribution online, but they would very much like to give something to this. Is there somewhere they can go to make a physical contribution? Yeah,
well, locally, if you go on, if you find out if there's a school nearby that has signed up.
Okay.
I know ourselves, the school in Carrickmacross, they were actually part of the ad campaign, St Michael's National School, Donaghmine. There's 106 kids in it. They were all in the ad campaign with myself. That's where my kids attend school. And they're going to be taking part in it. So anybody in the Dundalk area, it's about 15 minutes away from you. So if you're about Carrickmacross, they'll definitely take a sponsorship from you. There's also in the Dundalk area, there's the Dundalk Multiple Sclerosis voluntary group, and they're always they're a very active group, always looking for sponsorship and donations. So that you can get in touch with those. But just one other thing I do want to mention, like I said, MS Ireland do provide loads of supports and services, but especially for the local people this year, MS Ireland are bringing their national conference to the Hillgrove Hotel in Monaghan, so not too far away. So it's the 6th and 7th of November. The 6th is a gala dinner in the Hillgrove with lovely entertainment. The 7th is a full day of seminars, and they have Sophie Pratt, the nutritionist from Operation Transformation. They have fatigue management workshops. They have new and emerging treatment talk from Dr. Chris McGuigan. And if nothing else, it's a brilliant day and a chance for you to meet other people living with MS and with getting loads of information on top of it. So these kind of days is what your money is going to go towards to pay for these kind of days for supports for people like myself.
Yeah, that's where I'd like my money going. Right, and do you know what? I think reading is back as well. I noticed over the weekend I was in 3 different stores and there's a thing called a reading pillow and they were everywhere. So obviously everybody's reading again.
Reading pillow.
Yeah, I've dropped hints all over my house since I saw them. Anyway, can I just ask you before I let you go, is there a book in particular you're looking forward to reading during the readathon?
Well, at the minute, I'm loving Colleen Hoover. I read her 2 books because of her intending the movie was coming out. So I read those 2 books in 2 weeks and went and seen the movie. So I have got into her books. So I've seen a couple of her books that have caught my eye. So I think I'm going to read those. Now, my daughter has a list of books. She loves the Lucy Kennedy and Friendship Ferry books. So she's going for those. And my son's waiting for the new David Walliams book to launch now in October. So he's looking forward to that.
Well, happy reading to you and to your family. That is Orla Marron, who is a brand ambassador with MS Ireland.
97.7 Dundalk FM. Town Talk.